Leibniz considered distance interactions a mystical and unacceptable concept. But the unsurpassed perfect physical equivalence between rest and motion in any situation resulting from the continuity of space as well as the dynamic nature of gravity make interactions at a distance an always locally acceptable reality. By not feeling the effect of gravitational force when one is in free fall, in the absence of an atmosphere, Einstein correctly showed that space and time become curved, that their relative measurements vary in a curved way when in the presence of mass, which leads to the gravitational motion of bodies. Einstein's explanation is equivalent to Newton's explanation. They are complementary. Einstein shows that spatial and by time measurements relatively vary in gravitation in proportion to the gravitational force calculated by Newton. The important thing is to know that everything varies in exact proportion to the relative rotational momentum always present in the gravitational situation. Gravity is only a situation of proportional variations in the measured quantities of motion, space and time that originate in the relative quantities of motion that are the masses and therefore always occur in an exactly proportional way. The inexistence of an absolute standard situation of rest in the universe makes the perfect equivalence between rest and motion always valid, allowing the existence of gravitation anywhere in the universe. Newton described centripetal acceleration, that which is directed towards the center, in circular orbits as follows. Given a particle moving in a circle. At instant t, the particle is at spatial point, d, with speed, v1, in the tangential direction, d. According to Newton's first law of inertia, if there were no centripetal force acting on the body, it would continue to move in the d direction. After a time interval, dt, the particle that is now at the spatial point, g, has traveled the distance, v, dt, with speed, v2, of the same magnitude as v1, but in another direction. Considering infinitesimal variations, delta t equals dt, and delta v equals dv, where alpha is the angle between the spatial point d and the spatial point g, alpha is also the angle between v1 and v2, since v1 is perpendicular to OD, and v2 is perpendicular to OG. From the proportionalities of the geometric measures of a triangle, trigonometry, we take that alpha equals v delta t, r equals delta v, v. Knowing that by definition acceleration is the measure of the variation of the velocity in relation to the measure of elapsed time, dv, dt, a equals delta v, delta t. Substituting mathematically, a equals v squared r. From F equals ma. If the particle has mass m, the centripetal force required for acceleration is F equals mv squared r. The function of science is to discover universal laws and state them accurately and rationally. Newton. Light is one of the simplest forms of raw material, a physical substance that propagates from its source and from which we can visualize the three dimensions of space every day. For Descartes, light is an emission of a corpuscular nature linked to a vibratory emission. The vibratory emission, the simple oscillatory movement that is light, is enough to give it all the character or all the corpuscular properties that we attribute to it. As we know, light has mass when in motion but no mass at rest. The simple oscillatory movement that is light is capable of exerting pressure, displacing or deflecting the trajectory of electrons, colliding and creating particles with rest mass. Francesco Grimaldi explained that the formation of colors when light passes through the prism is due to the change in the speed of the vibratory movement, and that these color differences are produced by the vibrations that act on the eye with speeds, frequencies, different, as well as the diversity of sounds is due to the air vibration of speed, frequency. Thanks for watching. Subscribe to my channel and give your like if you enjoy it.